I sat on making this video for a while, and I didn't want to do so when I first watched the subject video because of the reaction I had from it. But after a few months of trying to move past it, I've found myself still thinking back on it, even though I did everything right in removing the person in question from my life by blocking them on all social media I could find. And so I've decided that enough is enough. I'm not going to let these things that I want to say in response fester and rot. I don't even care if I get a response from them or not. I feel it best appropriate now that I have a clearer mindset to directly address it for the sake of standing up for myself and completely moving on from the individual for the rest of the time they are on the internet. And no, this won't result in a doxing. Honestly, where you get the idea that I would is really perplexing. Yes, I am very well aware of the videos both made by Bubbling Brook and the duo of Nate Doodles and the name's Junkie, and they are both very well made videos. One is coming from the perspective of a friend defending the subject, while the other is the perspective of someone on the outside looking in. However, there are a few things that Brooke, I know, tried her best to bring to the table but couldn't due to, admittedly, my own willingness to provide the information. I'm talking about, of course, the subject themselves. Or in this case, me. It's nothing new for commentators to get commentated or talked about by one another, but none can do so in such a dated and misinformed fashion like Borg Productions, which, if you've been around the CC long enough, you know needs no introduction. Unless you're one of those outsiders, so I'll give you a brief rundown. Borg is a conservative who made response videos during the years dating back to the primordial CC. He stayed around because a few individuals, not naming any names here, finding him as a lolcow, and he garnered attention due to his radical views of commentators and commentaries, as well as his own political and religious beliefs. If you want a video tackling some of the garbo spewing out of his oral cavity, then I suggest watching Cosmo's video on his LGBT rant, specifically the revised version, as it better presents Cosmo's content. So according to what I and a group of friends had found when we originally discovered the video, was that it was kinda supposed to help me in some way, shape, or form. I don't know, it's very unclear and all over the place, so I can't really blame the person who initially sent it to us, thinking that it was the exact opposite. Frankly, when I first watched the video, I thought the same thing. But upon realizing that it was supposed to help me, it actually made things worse. I'll be getting into a little more detail on that later, but for now, we're going to be tackling the video itself. One thing I want to be clear on is that despite how I come across in this video, while it will be a pretty personal subject matter and I'm very likely to become emotionally charged due to that fact, this does not, however, give anyone the right to go harass the subject in question. Unlike his commenting audience, which I will also address later, I will not tolerate anyone going to the video or channel to send hate. Ready? Here we go.
I didn't think I was going to talk about a person that could have been the greatest female in the history of the YouTube commentary community. Someone who has struggled with depression for quite a long time. A victim of so much crap that when you try to do something that you like, your past always comes back to haunt you. This didn't just happen to Scarlet Otaku, it also happened to a conservative pioneer by the name of Beastly Evie, who I will talk about in a future video. While Scarlet Otaku may have a decent fan base on YouTube today, Scarlet has some issues that people may never understand. I may never understand it myself. So sit back and relax as I explain why Scarlet Otaku gets no respect.
Okay, so this introduction, yes, it basically sets up for what your subject is, but on how you plan to tackle it is very vague as hell. It's not clear right off the bat on whether this is supposed to be something that is supposed to rise me up from the pits of despair, or a pity party missing Puddles the Clown. Honestly, it's starting to look like the latter. By referring to me as a victim, you're already pushing for people to feel sorry for me. I don't need people to feel sorry for me. I'm a grown-ass woman, and I don't need to be coddled like a child. If you're confused as to why he brought up this Beastly Evie person and how it relates to me, we'll get to that in a bit. For now, just... I feel like I need to hug a sad clown and scream into a pillow.
As I said before, Scarlet Otaku has struggled with depression for a long time. Why is this a big deal? Because if you have a difficult time managing how you live, it can screw you over. Depression can make it difficult for you to focus even on the most simple task. You can't expect to rise above depression with just medication. Sometimes you have to talk about things and ask your friends and relatives to intervene with you. But this wasn't always the case for Scarlet Otaku. Even before Scarlet started YouTube, her depression was rooted all the way back to the death of a relative that she openly admitted in a video.
Stop. Stop right there. First of all, who are you to say that that is the reason my depression started? Yes, I mentioned in the video you're talking about how my death of my relative made me feel during that time, and that is a normal feeling when grieving. Hell, even now I'm still grieving, but that doesn't mean that I'm depressed because of what happened. I could go into detail on how the whole thing makes me feel and how it can contribute to my depression, but that's not your place to know. What is the cause of my depression? It could be a multitude of things, not just one singular thing. Hell, it may not even have been something to come out of provocation. This isn't like in the movies where a singular event happens, and that causes someone to spiral in a state of depression. What do you think this is? A David Cage movie? I mean video game? There are many things that could contribute to why my mind works the way that it does, but I'm not going to open up my entire soul to you, especially when you present my problems in such a— No, wait. We'll save that bit for later. What I'll address instead is the complete disregard for mine and others' well-beings for openly talking about the stalker. Now, if you want to talk about the events of what happened during that time, that's fine. It's natural for my name to be mentioned as I was a big part in what had transpired. But at least have the decency to not bring up the stalker by name. By doing so, you're giving the person more attention than they deserve. What they wanted in the first place was attention, and you giving out their name incentivizes others to seek this person out and give them the attention they want. It doesn't matter if it's negative. You were there during that time, weren't you? You should know that they didn't care about the kind of attention that they got. They just wanted to be fucking popular, and they went through really invasive means to get that attention. I'm cutting this section of the video out so that you don't further spread the name. The less people who know who they are, the better. Let them fade into obscurity.
In the beginning, Scarlet's depression was camouflaged as her early videos were mediocre, but as time went along, Scarlet got much better at it. A prime example was her video on Jordan River 89, a person that got flack for numerous reasons. Having a tism fit over Gligar 13 vids, being exposed for drawing diaper art of underage characters on DeviantArt, and failing to discern terrorism from a Sonic hater. One of my favorite videos from Scarlet Otaku happens to be a commentary on the Orion broadcast over Beastly Eevee expressing her opinions on homosexual marriage. Basically, Beastly Eevee stated at the time she respects homosexuals, but did not respect homosexual marriage. Certain people were furious at the video in question. MSchool01 of all people went nuts on social media. This incident not only demoralized Beastly Eevee, but it would inevitably get MSchool01 blacklisted from the commentary community. Nonetheless, Scarlet Otaku did call out the Orion broadcast for being a biased asshole to Beastly Eevee. As certain people, including Aquila2160 and Scarlet Otaku, came into the defense of Beastly Eevee, it also caused what many people argue as the biggest division in the commentary community.
Alright, so this is a lot to unpack, so let's start with the Beastly Eevee drama. This was dragged on for far too fucking long. You could easily have explained that people were angry at her stance on homosexual marriage due to her religious beliefs. I was one of the people who came to her defense despite my disagreeing with her, and that was why you liked the video. Everything involving M-Skull and Aki and all that shebang is nothing but padding. Concise, please. Second, the biggest division in the CC? Yeah, no. Bork does this a lot with small debates like this. Despite the loud uproar from the more vocal audience members, not everyone was as vitriolic towards Eevee. Youngblood, for example, was rather hopeful that she didn't have radical views on the subject, only to talk later with her in a DM or a Skype call, I don't really remember which one it was, and come to an agreement to agree to disagree. It was a small group of people within the CC that made the biggest stink about it. If that's what you're focusing on, then your viewpoint is extremely narrow, but then again, that's an understatement when it comes to you, but I digress. Third, and this is something that I find funny, you mentioned how you liked the work I had after I initially got my groove. Bear in mind that these videos are from 2013. Okay, so my new videos, that being my 2013 videos, you liked, but my older stuff in which you treated as the videos I got better at making. Oh my god, you have your timeline so fucked up!
Fuck you! It wasn't until March 12th, 2015 when Scarlet Otaku came back with a one-shot commentary. 2015 was when the commentary community managed to settle down and focus on their content rather than one another's criticisms. As Scarlet Otaku started gaining momentum and a fan base, her ability to communicate with people began to dwindle.
Okay, so you mentioned that my ability to communicate with people began to dwindle during this time, and never mentioned anything more of it later on to further explain what you mean. Even I'm having trouble understanding it because holy fuck, this is all kinds of wrong. I didn't communicate well with people? Or I didn't communicate well with you? I don't know, what do you want from me? I cannot be sitting at my computer every minute of every day, nor can I just go out of my way to talk to you every moment you want me to. You've only spoken to me a few times out of your own volition. During that time, I was making new friends and settling back into the CC. That would require me being social with other commentators and people within that group. How in any way does this make me antisocial? Plus, how would you know that my communication skills were dwindling if you've only spent a few times initiating a conversation with me on Twitter, which, by the way, I didn't make until early 2016, so put that into perspective.
Factor in personal issues outside of the internet, It was only a matter of time before the issue spilled over to her commentaries, affecting her ability to entertain an audience. Want an example? This commentary on Doodletone seemed pretty cliche considering that the commentary in question was focused more on entertainment rather than critique.
Here's an idea, and follow me on this one. What if, now this is a big what if, but what if that was the point of the video? I think this should come as common knowledge by now to anyone who follows me that I'm an amateur actress. Well, a vocalist in all technicality. I've done plenty of roles for different people and filled the shoes of different characters. It should come as no surprise that I would want to incorporate that into my content. What's really funny about this is that, at the time, this was the most fun I had in making a video. And I still look back on it fondly. Sure, it may not be some of my best work looking back, but if I can see where I was going with the concept and I had fun as I played the role that I wrote in the script, then of course I'm going to try and focus on recreating that moment in future content productions. You don't like the fact that I'm being more entertaining with my work, Borg? Too bad. This was the path I set out for myself and this is the track I'm staying on. No amount of bitching from you is going to change that. I'm actually enjoying the process of making videos, and while the end result may be either a hit or miss, if I'm having fun with the process, then it doesn't matter what you think of my direction. This is my content. I can do whatever the hell I want with it. You ain't my dad!
Don't get me wrong, there were plenty of critiques in the video, but there were some cliches, one of them being this.
No! Don't you ever touch Lana again!
Wait, what did you just shoot? Kaski? Yourself? The footage? Lana? Ryan?
Ow, my Chipotle!
That's a good question, actually. You bring no excuse as the random gunshot noise. It just comes off as, well, pointless.
It was a joke, honey, not a legitimate question. No need to try so hard to find something to commentate on.
Okay, we don't need to play the whole clip to get what you're trying to say. Which in and of itself is vague. Dude, learn to describe what you mean in a way that your audience, especially your subject, will understand. This was the point about the cliches, which was addressed by Brooke, and I feel that she countered this particular point well, and I agree with a lot of what she said. No, the video isn't perfect, but there were some things that I could have done differently, and I took her words to heart. As well as the others before her and you had pointed out. Okay, so, Borg, with that in mind, I want to ask you, why is it that you're using my old content to reflect who I am as a content creator now? That's like showing off someone's old piece of art from when they were 14 and treating it like that art is the quality of the artist nowadays. And this is something that he just does, not just throughout the entire video, but through everything else that he talks about in his No Respect series. Bringing up old drama and content to make his argument when the content he could use is right fucking there! You see that, Borg? New content, all shiny and sparkly, ripe with a few issues for you to actually criticize. Oh yeah, and we're only just getting into the content. Yes, folks, he actually goes much further than that. If you thought him bringing up the supposed cause of my depression was bad, where's my Gengar plushie? I need a cuddles.
When you use this cliche time after time instead of using sarcasm to improve the entertainment quality, you know your commentary isn't really that good.
There wasn't a time when I didn't use sarcasm to improve the entertainment quality. You know, there are actually some people in the world who find sarcasm funny. Shockingly enough, my audience happens to be comprised of those people. So sorry that you're not one of them, but I'm not going to contribute to one person who happens to not like my style of portraying my persona. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean that my commentary was bad overall. Your complaint is completely subjective, and I don't have to cater to your tastes just to satisfy you.
Perhaps Scarlet realized that something wasn't right about the video, and it ties in with Scarlet Otaku's depression.
I was perfectly fine with the video, I still am, and no, this has nothing to do with my depression. Get your head out of the clouds, you fucking delusional!
Now, like I said, Scarlet is not a very social person, and for good reason. The following I'm about to show you is a twit longer regarding Scarlet's personal struggles. This is for the whole world to read, so a link will be in the description.
Okay, no, we're not gonna let anyone else see that. Not ever! That twit longer I made was to open up about my anxiety and Asperger's syndrome, alongside my depression and how it was affecting me at the time. It is not for the whole world to read. There's a reason why I buried that in the first place, so that I could move the fuck on from the situation. You know, some people actually don't like opening up about their issues because they think it will burden those who they talk to. You know, funny enough, you were one of the people who came to me with words of encouragement. Don't think I don't remember the video that you made saying that I was funny and that you wished the best for me despite the struggles that I was facing at that time. That right there helped me in getting through what I was going through. That right there was actually encouraging. And you tweeting at me telling me how you were getting back into video making and music and practically thanking me for being the encouragement you needed to pursue that passion encouraged me to do the same. It was all one big encouragement circle jerk. You and so many others actually came to my Twitlonger and responded with words of encouragement and empathy that actually made me feel less alone in what I was dealing with. But this entire video, this is the reason why that Twitlonger is no longer available to read. Essentially, what you're telling me is that if I open up about anything personal, it is going to be used against me, telling me that that is the reason why I gain no respect. How in the flying fuck does that help me, Borg? In what world would I consider that to be an uplifting gesture? And you know what I find funny? You mention my depression quite a lot and focus a lot of attention on it. What about my social anxiety or my Asperger syndrome? Those were and still are things that I try to be open about, so why aren't you mentioning them too? Why put so much focus on my depression? It's just... this video makes no goddamn sense. Fuck you!
So with all the hard work Scarlet Otaku endures in her personal life, it can take a toll on her mentally. Social anxiety is the main reason why Scarlet is very quiet in her personal life, and I can understand that myself. I don't like being forced into a situation to talk because some people expect me to be cheerful like a cocaine-addicted nigger.
Hey, just a reminder at the time of me writing the script for this, the video that we're looking at right now? Yeah, 75 likes. And yes, he did indeed use the hard R. Congrats, Borg, you found your audience. Here's your complimentary KKK garb and tinfoil hat. Now you're part of the Obama turned my frogs gay with chemicals club. Now we just have to wait a few years for you to be removed from YouTube due to breaking community guidelines. Don't worry. It'll kick in eventually. Maybe.
If people need their space, don't force them to be cheerful because in the end, that makes them want to be less social in the long run. Once again, this ties into her depression.
Literally how? You've only barely scratched the surface of my social anxiety and not even touched my Asperger syndrome. This is why I question you putting so much focus on my depression, without further explanation on what these other issues bring to the table. The whole point of you bringing this up is moot. No, I won't be going into detail on how it does. What do you take me for? You're not my therapist. I feel bad for not writing this in, but it's literally the equivalent of serving your child dinner and they are refusing to eat their peas and carrots in order to get the full worth of the meal. Oh, come on there, little Borgie. Eat your carrots. They're good for you.
Since then, Scarlet does not make a whole lot of commentaries like she used to. A combination of working a stressful job, doing art commissions for people, and battling depression are numerous reasons why commentaries are becoming a rarity on her channel.
Correction, at the time I wasn't doing commissions as I didn't have the time nor proper setup to do so. Yeah. But now I am, and if you all head over to my Twitter at Scarlet57Otaku, you'll see all my prices and special offers on logos, video thumbnails, and cell phone backgrounds. Head on down to get your commission today. Shilling aside, let's ask another question here. What if I wanted to focus on other content ideas or I'm working on a commentary right now? Like, at the time you recorded and got the screenshots for this video, my Devilman Crybaby comm was my most recent commentary. This may be a sparse schedule, that implying that I actually have a schedule, but it's at least content that you're subscribed for. At the time of this video, I'm currently working at a job, taking commissions and doing live streams and co-ops in my spare time. Stop breathing down my neck saying that I need to upload more content. You're flaring up my anxiety and thus preventing me from actually getting work done.
With Scarlet starting to get old, things ain't what they used to be. Even though she does have fans and friends, things ain't what they used to be.
Back in my day, we had content creators that put out slideshows and commentated on people because we didn't like the way they talked about our shows. Those were the good days.
I can't say how many fans actually enjoy Scarlet Otaku the person or Scarlet's content, but I think we can agree on this. Scarlet Otaku is the Rule 63 Rodney Dangerfield. Scarlet Otaku gets no respect.
I fail to see how I'm anything like an old comedian that I've never heard of. But yes, of course, clearly I don't get any respect. I mean, just look at the sub count that I have and the reception I get in my recent videos. Clearly people don't respect me enough to actually like me as a person. Look at all these friends that I have in my Discord. Oh god, no one respects me. That is the end of the video. And before I move on to my final thoughts, there's one thing that I want to address, and it's something that I mentioned when making the disclaimer earlier. I want to talk about the comments, specifically the comments that I had received in the aftermath of this video's upload. Now, I can understand not being able to control what your audience does, but at the very least, what you can do is make the disclaimer that you're not condoning any hate towards the subject that you talk about, and only wish for discussion. Borg has done this with topics that he feels strongly about, saying that the people that he talks about are not the majority, and that you shouldn't harass those who have nothing to do with the bad apples of the group, or the individuals themselves. They aren't what I consider to be great disclaimers, but giving credit where credit is due, he at least tries to do so. Not with this one. With how vague this video is in its intentions, there are comments that actually fill this section with people shit-talking me. Now, if this were just confined to this video, that'd be one thing. But it's another to not have that disclaimer and have people come to your recent videos telling you that you should kill yourself, completely disrespecting the sensitive subject that you so openly talked about by another person. If this disclaimer was there to begin with, I wouldn't hold any ill will against Borg and say that this was completely out of his control and he did everything he could to prevent and disallow it, but that isn't the case here. I've looked through this video enough times to know that there was no disclaimer in sight and no indication that this was supposed to be an uplifting video. And with that, I have to agree with what the person who initially sent us the video in the first place, is that it is made to slander. Otherwise, you wouldn't be agreeing with these comments and turning a blind eye to these actions. The comments are just one of the things that make me irked about this whole thing, but the biggest problem I have with this video, and the whole thing of it being uploaded, and everything else in general, is how invasive and assuming of my character and how it could have been avoided with one simple action. If Borg had just hopped into my DMs and said, "Hi Scarlet, I know it's been a while since we last spoke, but I was wondering on how you were doing these days?" It's such a simple thing to do that you went out of your way to avoid and instead made assumptions on my personal life that you absolutely had no right to discuss. I mean, I know you're scared of women for the stupidest of reasons, but Jesus! You really went out of your way to make me look bad for petty delusions. I privatized the video involving the stalker and removed the twit longer because I do not want my personal problems out there in the public to be aired like dirty laundry. The video was meant to be a warning for those who possibly ran into the stalker during that time and urging those who did to avoid them, while the twit longer was to vent out frustrations and bury after getting out of my system. They are not things for you to dig around and throw back in my face when I've been doing better than I have in a while. Whatever kind of respect I was supposed to get out of this whole thing is lost at how completely disrespectful your rant was. You know, what makes this even more of a kick in the teeth is that this video came out 3 days after my birthday. Happy birthday, Scarlet! Here's a happy serving of depression and everyone knowing about it. Let's talk about your personal life. The only thing that I have to say to you now, Borg, is this. I want nothing to do with you. You can apologize if you want, and maybe I'll accept that apology. But it won't change you being blocked from all social media that I can find and that I have an account on. It won't change my mindset on you in that I believe you are very, very mentally unhealthy of a person for me to be around. And it certainly won't change the public's opinion of you. Not that it was good to begin with. Consider this an unofficial restraining order. Don't contact me, and don't contact my friends to get through me. You can say whatever you want about me. I don't care. Either way, this acquaintanceship is over.